I want to get right into the 23 habits of wealthy retirees. And by wealthy, though, I want to make sure that we agree on what that means, because you can be wealthy financially and have all the money that you need. But if you ignore these other three types of wealth, then we're going to be miserable. Have you ever heard of the guy who is really, he's got all the money that he needs, but nobody likes him. He doesn't have any real friends, and he's got horrible family life, and he neglected his health. Is that real, true wealth? So the 23 habits that we're going to go over are going to fall into four categories of wealth, and it's going to look something like this. The first category is the one that we're thinking of, which is financial. That's financial wealth, money wealth. The next one that we have to think about is that relationship wealth, and also health and spiritual. And all four of these are important to living that ideal retirement. So let's get into it. The first category we're going to cover is the financial. So we'll focus on the money side and just some of the habits that we see wealthy financial people do in retirement. And number one is hold cash, because having cash in your portfolio really fits into that idea of the conservative bucket, which you've seen before. And it's that idea of having the three bucket strategy here. Ooh, those are big buckets, but having the conservative bucket and having enough to weather downturns if needed. It really gives us options when the markets aren't cooperating, and it gives us flexibility. And the question to answer is, what's the right amount to have in cash for you? And the answer is, it really depends on your income plan and your investment plan and how they're working together. Because you don't want too much in cash, because it is getting eaten away by inflation every year. We know that. But you also don't want too little, where you're going to be forced to sell investments at a loss to fund your living expenses. A common rule of thumb, which I don't always agree with, but what you hear out there sometimes is having, it depends, but having maybe 6 months, 1 year, or maybe 2 years worth of expenses if it fits in your plan. But really, the most important thing is make sure you run the numbers of your own financial plan, your own retirement plan, and just make sure what the right cash amount is. Some people can afford to have more cash than others, and some can't. But on to the second habit, and what wealthy retirees do, the financially wealthy ones do, they buy back their time. Because when you're in your 50s, your 60s, 70s, or 80s, you realize that time does not equal money. And really, time is a lot more valuable than money. Your money can actually make money while it's sitting there in the investments, but you can't make more time, right? So a lot of happy retirees, wealthy retirees, the ones we see, they'll spend money on things that they don't want to do anymore, so that they can enjoy their time doing the things that they actually do want to do. You know, they might hire that mowing service, even if they've mowed their own lawn for the last 30 years, or they might hire some other home maintenance people or someone to do projects or fixes, even though they know how to do it, but maybe they don't want to spend their weekend doing it. Or they might partner with a wealth management firm and make sure that they're doing everything that they should be, and they're not making any mistakes or just missing anything. The next habit is they don't buy what they can't afford. The way that financially wealthy people got that way is not by spending their money on anything that came in their purview, right? They didn't spend on things that they didn't really need. The next is they avoid financing in bad debt. So they may have debt on real estate or other assets that pay them a positive cash flow that's actually paying them money, but they're less likely to go into debt on things like liabilities, like maybe cars or boats or things like that. They would just pay cash for those. The next thing is they diversify. You know, this one's a no-brainer. As long as you're diversifying among the different asset classes that we need in order to handle the four economic seasons. And let me make this smaller this time. There's four economic seasons: higher than expected inflation or deflation, or higher than expected economic return, or lower than expected economic. So making sure you have asset classes in each one of those is important. Now, you might hear some billionaires and investors recommend that they got rich by not diversifying and really focusing all eggs in one basket or a few baskets. But really, when you think about it, we're not billionaire investors. Our goal is to live off our assets in a comfortable way and just be prepared for the various economic seasons that we were just talking about. And really, we got to be prepared for both the good case scenario and then also the worst case scenario. So that's when diversification can really help a plan. The last habit that we see in this category of financial wealth is the habit that we see is they give. Now, not every financially wealthy person does give, but the ones who do are the ones that we believe and can see are more happy and they're more content and they're more grateful for what they have. They're generous with their money and they're generous with their time. But here's the thing, they're still thinking about their money and their time as investments. They're not just giving willy-nilly to anything that comes along. They look at it as important capital and they're investing it in other people, or they're investing it in other causes that are really improving the world and improving people's lives. Now we're moving on to the next category of wealth,